You'd have beat him again if he hadn't bumped you.
Nah, I'd have missed on purpose.
Yeah, try this.
Before Disney dreamed in pixels, they stared at an abyss, and what stared back almost destroyed them, an experiment where beauty collides with dread. In 1979, Disney traded fairy dust for firestorms, creating a sci-fi nightmare haunting the studio for decades. Let's dive into 20 shocking facts about The Black Hole, the movie that almost swallowed Disney whole. Fact 1. The Poseidon Adventure in Space. Before lightsabers ruled the box office, disaster movies ruled Hollywood. In the mid-70s, writers Bob Barbash and Richard Landau walked into Disney with a wild idea. The Poseidon Adventure, but in space. No aliens, no laser duels, just a starship drifting toward doom with a desperate crew fighting to survive. The story was packed with tension, not technology. It wasn't about galaxies or heroes. It was about ordinary people trapped in an extraordinary disaster. Disney liked the bones of it, but the timing was wrong. The idea was shelved, collecting dust in studio archives. Then Star Wars exploded in 1977, and suddenly that old draft didn't look so crazy anymore. What began as a survival thriller would soon be reborn as The Black Hole, a film that mixed cosmic wonder with creeping dread. Fact 2. The Missing Black Hole. It's almost impossible to imagine the black hole without, well, a black hole, but in the earliest drafts, there wasn't one at all. The project was originally titled Space Station 1, a bland name for a story that felt just as flat. It focused on a drifting crew and a malfunctioning station, but there was no sense of mystery or danger. Producers soon realized the film needed a hook, something vast, terrifying, and unforgettable. That's when the idea of the black hole emerged, transforming the story overnight. Suddenly, the movie wasn't just about survival. It was about facing the unknown. The title itself became a promise of danger, of madness, of cosmic fate. What began as a generic space drama became one of the most haunting titles in sci-fi history, pulled straight into the void. Fact 3. The producer who refused to let go. By the mid-1970s, The Black Hole was collapsing under its own weight. Scripts stalled, directors quit, and Disney quietly shelved the project as too strange and too expensive. But one man refused to let it die. Veteran producer Winston Hibler, a creative force from Disney's golden age. Hibler believed the film could be something extraordinary. He brought in visionary artists like Robert McCall, whose cosmic paintings shaped 2001, A Space Odyssey, and Peter Ellenshaw, who turned outer space into gothic dreamscapes. Their artwork reignited hope, transforming The Black Hole from a forgotten draft into a visual obsession. Just as momentum returned, tragedy struck. Hibler passed away suddenly, leaving the film adrift once more. Yet his passion outlived him. The movie survived not through perfection, but through sheer persistence, proof that obsession can outlast even death. Fact 4. The script that ate itself. For nearly a decade, The Black Hole was trapped in rewrite limbo. Every time a new writer joined, the story changed shape, part disaster film, part haunted spaceship, part philosophical sci-fi. By the time director Gary Nelson came aboard, the script was a mess of tones and contradictions. Scenes led nowhere, characters vanished mid-plot, and the science barely made sense. Even novelist Alan Dean Foster, hired to adapt it, had to rewrite sections just to keep the story coherent. The final film felt like a patchwork stitched together from a dozen different visions. Yet that chaos gave it something unique, an unpredictable energy that made it impossible to pin down. The Black Hole wasn't just written, it was rewritten to death, reborn in confusion, and somehow emerged as one of Disney's strangest creations. Fact 5. Disney builds its own ILM. When Star Wars exploded in 1977, every studio scrambled to copy its magic. Disney wanted in, but there was a problem. Industrial Light and Magic, the effects team behind Star Wars, was too busy with The Empire Strikes Back. So Disney made a bold move, build their own version from scratch. The result was ACES, the automated camera effects system, a groundbreaking motion control rig capable of filming miniature ships with microscopic precision. It was slow, expensive, and constantly broke down, but the results were breathtaking. The swirling ships, eerie starfields, and dizzying sense of depth all came from Disney's homemade innovation. Though The Black Hole didn't save the studio, ACES became the foundation for Disney's digital future. Long before Tron or Toy Story, Disney was was already crafting the technology that would define the next century. Fact 6. A ship built like a church. The starship Cygnus wasn't designed like a spaceship at all. It was built like a cathedral. Production designer Peter Ellenshaw drew inspiration from the Gothic arches and stained glass glow of Notre Dame. Instead of sleek steel corridors, the Cygnus was filled with towering spires, cross-shaped windows, and haunting lights that flickered like candles in the dark. When illuminated, the ship didn't look mechanical. It looked holy, as if it were drifting through space on a spiritual mission. This haunting design turned the black hole into something more than science fiction. It became a Gothic vision of technology and faith colliding in the void. In a decade obsessed with rockets and robots, Disney dared to build a cathedral in the stars, and it remains one of the most striking sets in sci-fi history. Fact 7. The haunting music of John Barry. To give the black hole its voice, Disney turned to John Barry, the composer who gave James Bond his swagger and elegance. But this time, Barry traded brass and glamour for something darker. His score for the black hole was haunting, operatic, and full of dread, blending sweeping romantic themes with the slow pull of doom. Before a single image appeared, audiences heard a full orchestral overture, a rare cinematic tradition by 1979. The music alone set the tone, grand, eerie, and strangely beautiful. Barry's score didn't just accompany the film, it defined it. It echoed the Gothic ship, the descent into chaos, and the hypnotic beauty of the unknown. Even today, those opening notes feel like falling into the abyss itself. Elegant, terrifying, and impossible to forget. Fact 8. Disney's first PG movie. For decades, Disney meant innocence, fairy tales, musicals, and happy endings. But in 1979, The Black Hole shattered that image. It became the studio's first ever PG-rated movie, and audiences expecting magic found something far darker. Scientists debated morality, machines crushed crew members, and robots tore each other apart in violent scenes no one expected from Disney. Even mild profanity, words like hell and damn, shocked parents used to Mary Poppins. The movie's tone was eerie, mature, and full of dread, leaving families unsure whether to be amazed or horrified. Though it failed to become a blockbuster, The Black Hole opened the door for a bolder Disney, one unafraid of shadows. Without it, there might never have been Tron, Return to Oz, or the darker experiments that shaped the studio's future. Fact 9. The Sigourney Weaver. What if casting for The Black Hole could have changed sci-fi history? Director Gary Nelson wanted a fresh, strong presence for the female lead and auditioned a young actress named Sigourney Weaver. But Disney's casting chief rejected her immediately, claiming her name sounded too unattractive for movie posters. Weaver walked away, and within a year, she became an icon as Ripley in Alien. The irony still stings. Disney dismissed the woman who would redefine science fiction. Instead, they cast Yvette Mimieux, a familiar face from The Time Machine, who brought quiet intelligence to the role of Dr. Kate McRae. She made history as Disney's first female scientist in a live-action film. Still, one decision changed everything. Weaver found legend, and Disney found a milestone. Two paths born from the same audition, forever pulling in opposite directions. Fact 10. When Norman Bates went to space. When audiences saw The Black Hole in 1979, one face shocked everyone. Anthony Perkins, forever known as Norman Bates from Psycho. Disney, the home of fairy tales, had cast cinema's most infamous killer as a quiet, idealistic scientist named Dr. Alex Durant. Perkins played him with eerie calm, a man fascinated, maybe obsessed, with the film's mad captain. His death scene, however, was pure horror, crushed by the red robot Maximilian's spinning blades in one of the most violent moments Disney had ever shown. It was quick, graphic, and unforgettable. Viewers couldn't believe what they'd seen. Norman Bates meeting his end inside a Disney movie. That scene marked a point of no return. The Black Hole wasn't a family adventure anymore. It was Disney's first real flirtation with nightmare. Fact 11. The secret voices behind the robots. Two of the Black Hole's most beloved characters weren't even human, and their famous voices were almost erased from history. The wisecracking robot Vincent was voiced by Roddy McDowall, star of Planet of the Apes, while his battered counterpart B.O.B. spoke with the unmistakable Texas drawl of Slim Pickens from Dr. Strangelove. But Disney kept both actors uncredited. Executives feared that if audiences saw their names, the illusion would break. Viewers would imagine actors in sound booths instead of believing in living machines. So, the studio deliberately hid their contributions. Ironically, those two robots became the emotional heart of the film, the underdogs everyone rooted for. The very performances Disney tried to conceal ended up giving The Black Hole its soul and its most memorable moments. Fact 12. The director who smashed his own robot. The lovable robot B.O.B. wasn't always so charming. When the design team first presented the model model, director Gary Nelson hated it. To him, it looked too perfect, shiny, smooth, and lifeless. He wanted a survivor, not a showroom toy. So, in a burst of frustration, Nelson grabbed a baseball bat and smashed the clay model himself, denting and warping it until it looked battered and uneven. The team rebuilt the robot based on that damaged version, giving B.O.B. his distinctive, crooked, endearing look. On screen, those dents and scratches made him instantly sympathetic, a small, broken machine with more heart than the humans around him. Ironically, one of Disney's most beloved robots was born not from careful craftsmanship but from destruction, proof that imperfection sometimes builds the most unforgettable characters. Fact 13. The writer who got fired at lunch. Disney briefly hired legendary sci-fi writer Harlan Ellison to consult on The Black Hole. Brilliant, unpredictable, and famously hot-tempered, Ellison lasted less than a day. During lunch at the studio commissary, he joked about making an X-rated animated film starring Disney characters. Unfortunately, sitting nearby was Roy E. Disney himself, and he didn't find it funny. By the end of the meal, Ellison's contract was gone, and so was he. The incident became one of Hollywood's strangest lunchtime firings, spreading through the studio like wildfire. Ellison later claimed it was just misunderstood humor, but witnesses swore he was serious. Whether joke or not, that moment perfectly summed up The Black Hole's chaotic production, a movie so unpredictable that even lunch could turn into legend. Fact 14. The science that made no sense. When novelist Alan Dean Foster was hired to write The Black Hole's official book adaptation, he expected a simple job, but once he read the script, he was stunned. The science was pure nonsense. Gravity flipped randomly, black holes acted like tunnels, and the ship's physics broke every known rule. Foster wrote a detailed memo listing dozens of errors and contradictions, hoping Disney would make corrections. Instead, the studio ignored him, more focused on spectacle than accuracy. He quietly fixed what he could in the novel, just to keep the story readable. The irony. The book version actually made more sense than the film itself. The Black Hole wasn't about realism. It was about imagination pushed to the breaking point, where logic vanished and wonder took over. Fact 15. Disney's unexpected Oscar nod. Despite its chaos, The Black Hole stunned Hollywood by earning 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Cinematography and Best Visual Effects. For a studio known for cartoons and musicals, that was a breakthrough. Cinematographer Frank Phillips bathed the film in eerie light, turning the Cygnus into a floating cathedral of shadows. Meanwhile, Disney's new effects team pushed their homemade ACES system to its limits, layering models, matte paintings, and motion control shots to create hauntingly beautiful space sequences. Though it lost both awards, the nominations proved something crucial. Disney could compete with serious sci-fi on a cinematic level. For a company long trapped in fairy tales, The Black Hole was a bold declaration. Disney could dream beyond magic kingdoms and into the darkness of the stars. Fact 16. The most expensive Disney film ever at the time. By the late 1970s, The Black Hole had become Disney's ultimate gamble. With a budget nearing $20 million, the studio's largest ever, it was a financial black hole in every sense. Sets stretched across sound stages, miniatures glowed under thousands of lights, and experimental tech like ACES devoured money daily. Executives hoped for the next Star Wars, but the film's dark tone confused families and critics alike. It wasn't a hit, earning around $35 million worldwide, barely covering its cost. Still, that risk changed Disney forever. The studio learned how to build epic live-action worlds and push visual boundaries. The Black Hole didn't make Disney rich, but it made them brave, a costly lesson in chasing ambition across the stars. Fact 17. The merch that nobody bought. Like every studio chasing Star Wars success, Disney expected The Black Hole to launch a toy empire. Action figures, playsets, and model kits filled shelves months before the premiere. Mego produced detailed replicas of the film's robots and crew, from the menacing Maximilian to the dented underdog B.O.B. But when the movie hit theaters, kids weren't interested. The film was too dark, too adult, and the toys just gathered dust. Within a year, production stopped and the line vanished. Ironically, decades later, those same toys became collector's gold, especially rare figures in unopened boxes. What failed as merchandise turned into treasure for nostalgic fans. The Black Hole toys may not have captured children's hearts in 1979, but in time, they found immortality on collector shelves. Fact 18. The unfinished comic sequel. After the unsettling ending of The Black Hole, Disney tried to extend the story beyond the screen. Whitman Comics released a 2-part adaptation of the movie, then went further, launching Beyond the Black Hole, a direct sequel that continued the crew's journey into the void. The comic explored strange new realms of light and fire, hinting at heaven, hell, hell, and everything in between. But just as things got interesting, the series was abruptly canceled after only 2 issues, leaving readers stranded mid-story. No conclusion, no answers, just endless mystery. Over time, those comics became cult treasures, with collectors hunting for the elusive final issue. Like the film itself, Beyond the Black Hole ended not with closure, but with a haunting silence that made it unforgettable. Fact 19. The cult legacy. The Black Hole never became the blockbuster Disney hoped for, but its influence quietly rippled through cinema. Its gothic spaceship, eerie silence, and surreal descent into fire and light inspired later films like Event Horizon, 1997, and Sunshine, 2007. What once baffled audiences became a blueprint for cosmic horror, the idea that space itself could be terrifying. Critics later re-evaluated the film, praising its ambition, atmosphere, and willingness to dive into madness. It proved that science fiction didn't have to be about heroism. It could explore fear, obsession, and the unknown. Decades later, The Black Hole stands as a cult classic, too weird to succeed, too haunting to forget. It remains Disney's strangest experiment, a movie that dared to dream of heaven and hell among the stars. Fact 20. A hidden tribute in Tron Legacy. Decades after The Black Hole vanished into obscurity, Disney quietly paid tribute to its darkest experiment. In Tron Legacy, 2010, a poster of the black hole hangs in Sam Flynn's room, a subtle nod to the studio's forgotten sci-fi gamble. Look closer, and you'll spot a tiny figure of B.O.B. sitting on a shelf nearby. For casual viewers, it's just decoration. But for longtime fans, it's a ghost from Disney's past. Proof that the film's shadow still lingers in the company's imagination. The reference connects 2 eras of Disney futurism, the analog dread of the black hole and the digital dreams of Tron. Even after 30 years, the abyss hadn't let go. The black hole still pulled Disney back, a reminder that some experiments are too haunting to ever truly die. The Black Hole was no ordinary Disney film. It was a beautiful nightmare stitched into starlight. Too dark for kids, too strange for critics, yet unforgettable for those who dared to look deeper. It proved that even the brightest dreamers can find wonder in the abyss, and sometimes the void looks back.